All right, good evening, everyone. We are going to start our regularly scheduled council meeting. We begin this meeting by just acknowledging that we are holding the meeting on the traditional territories of the Coast and Strait Salish people, specifically the Lekwungen-speaking people, known today as the Esquimalt and Songhees First Nations, that their connections to this land continues to this day. Also want to point out for those in the audience that these proceedings are live streamed over the internet and archived for future viewing on our website. To begin with, I'm just going to ask for a motion to amend the agenda. We have item number 4, which is a presentation from the Chamber of Commerce. In the interest of their schedule, if we can move that up following in behind the adoption of the minutes. I just need a motion
I'll make
to
that
move.
motion.
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much. So then the first item on the agenda is our minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes. We can take a motion to approve all 3, or we can pull them apart as people have
Make a
changes.
motion to approve all 3 minutes.
Moved
Second.
and seconded. Is there any changes, corrections? Not seeing any. Yes, Councillor Zelka.
Thank you very much, Chair. Regarding the Special Committee of the Whole meeting held the 30th of January, on page 2, with respect to the short-term rentals initiative that was added, I believe I voted against that one. It seems to say, it suggests that Councillor Appleton was the only one opposed, and I believe I was opposed to that one. So I would call that a correction. Thank you.
I don't have a specific recollection of that myself, so staff, any pieces of that? I'm assuming that it was.
Your Worship, we can review that if necessary, and we can correct those at the next council meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any other corrections, omissions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much. So now we will move item number 4 up, and we have Ms. Holt here and to provide a presentation. Welcome. If you don't mind, just turn on the microphone and give your name and organization, and then you have a presentation for us to view. I believe we have a copy of it in our agenda.
So. Yes, Catherine Holt, I'm the CEO of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Mayor and Councillors.
Welcome, Ms. Holt.
I think you do have my presentation. There's just a few short slides. I was told I have 10 minutes, so I'm keeping it short and sweet, and then hopefully you'll have some questions that I'm happy to answer. Also, we did, I think, leave at everyone's place there are events, flyer, upcoming events, and our magazine, which has our advocacy priorities in it. And I wanted to draw your particular attention to our member value statement, page 1, page 2 in the middle, where you will see your very own Hazel Braithwaite featured. Not because we did that intentionally, but because she's at every single event. So we took her photo and put it in here because everyone knows her so well. So do I proceed with the slides, or how does this
I'm going to ask that same question.
work?
I think it's not showing up on the screens yet, so maybe we can just.
Page down, it should take you to the next.
This one here?
Yep.
Oh, thank you very much.
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms.
Okay.
Hopkins.
Yes, so just briefly, we have been talking for some time with the Mayor and Councillor Braithwaite about the option of joining the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce. We very much want to be the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce. We have we're very pleased to say we have had Victoria for many decades as a member, and Saanich and Langford joined in 2019. So we've got those 3. Had breakfast with Mayor Stu Young this morning, which was always an interesting and entertaining event, and wrapping up the day with this meeting with Oak Bay, so it's quite fascinating. And we do, I'll start out with our mission and our vision. So the Chamber's mission is to work together to build good business and great community. We adopted that mission this year, and it means a lot to us. It's really resonated with our members and our stakeholders, and we both want to help our members build good business, but I have to say that's across every sector. We've got lots of very large public sector members as well as private sector members, this being the government town it is, and lots of not-for-profits, and then many, many businesses, mostly small businesses. So when we say business, we mean every kind of business in every sector. And very much the purpose of the chamber is to build great community. So our members of every sector and every size and every community are all very much committed to that, with the overall vision of becoming the region's most diverse and influential business association. That's also new as of 2019 as a vision, and very much focused on diversity as a way to become influential. So the more types of members we have, meaning types of industries, sectors, and also individuals of every age and background, the more influential we'll be. So we've been working very much on that. You might have got a different list that one of our staff people put together on members of the chamber who are located in Oak Bay, but we did that by by postal code, so it kind of overlapped into Victoria and Saanich, but this we think is more representative of the members that we currently have that are located within the boundaries, just to give you a sense. And of course, we all do business together across this whole region, and our 1,400 members are certainly part of your community too. Yeah, just a few of our benefits. Member directory is a very, very popular benefit, especially for smaller organizations, because when you search for a type of service and your company is in our directory, the chamber tends to end up very high in the search engine optimization algorithms. So we get a lot of people, our members are very interested in the exposure they get through our directory. We put out biz news every week, and we have a few thousand people who receive that. And as a member, anybody who is an employee or, of course, mayor and council in Oak Bay would be able to get biz news and chamber events every week. We have been hitting about over 40% open rate, which means of the few thousand people that receive it, over 40% actually open it and engage in it somehow, which is an extremely high rate for an industry newsletter, which is usually in the teens, 12, 15%. So we're very pleased with the engagement we have with regard to that. We also have a wide array of other money-saving things. So we've stuck one up there, Teledoc, which has become very instantly popular with our shortage of GPs around the region. When you have chamber group insurance, which is a very popular insurance package, especially for small businesses, you now have free access to Teledoc to replace your GP electronically. Seems to be functioning highly. And I think, okay, what else do we have? We got some notes coming up. Okay. The main thing I think, though, for municipality is not so much those kinds of benefits, but the opportunity to network across the region. And that's what our other municipal leaders use us for the most. We get the mayors and councillors and senior staff out to a lot of different events, as Hazel knows, and Kevin's definitely been to a number of them, and they will have seen their counterparts there. So you're connecting certainly with each other, but you have other opportunities to connect with other municipal leaders. I think it's the connection between municipal leaders and the big employers and the businesses in the region that is what we really offer. It's our most popular offering, is those events, especially business leaders lunches where we get good speakers. That's the pamphlet, flyer that we just handed out. So we're very pleased that we'll have Joy McPhail hot on the heels of the announcement that ICBC has made. She's the chair of ICBC, and quite a firecracker. And so we're selling tickets like crazy for that one. Mark Collins is coming up also in March, and he's offering a tour for attendees of the new hybrid ferries that are at Railmax Point Hope Shipyard. And we have just confirmed Carol James for February 27th to talk about the provincial budget. So it's the speakers, but it's also the other people that you will meet in the room. That's the networking opportunity. We have a lot of the big employers, as I said, public and private sector, and small employers as well. I just talked about, this was last year. We had a remarkable year with many, many federal ministers heading into the federal election, and lots of lively conversations. They started this thing called the Fireside Chat, so I ended up having Q&A sessions with all of them. It was quite entertaining for everyone. Our business awards are huge. They're coming up in May. We have 167 completed nominees this year, very high quality, so we're looking forward to that. And we have lots of interaction with our municipal members. And I should have said the CRD has been a longstanding member of the Chamber as well. So this year we'll have the Victoria and Saanich mayors as our keynote speakers at our AGM in April. We have a lot of interaction with the Business Hub in Victoria. It's hard to capture in a slide the interactions that we have with all these municipalities, because as you know, municipalities are always trying to consult and involve opinions of their citizens, but often they come to us for more of a business sector view of some of their initiatives. So we have continual interaction with Victoria and Saanich on many fronts. Langford just joined late in the year, so we're just getting things ramped up with them. As I said earlier, it's certainly not just mayors and council, but senior staff that are welcome and who attend our events. And just as another example, I do meet monthly with the Mayor of Victoria and Destination Greater Victoria Harbour Authority Downtown Business Association, UDI, and a roundtable discussion of major issues. And we, just as an example of some of the issues that we have talked to multiple municipalities about, the need for childcare. I'm on a committee with the City of Victoria, plastic bags across a number of municipalities, as that bylaw has been under development, shall we call it. Bike lanes across a number of municipalities and transportation issues across the region. Workforce housing is our number one concern, attracting and retaining employees and the housing they need, and of course all aspects of economic development. And these are our advocacy priorities for 2020. So the size of the circles is to give you a sense of the proportionality, so how often and how often we hear about the issues and how important our members tell them those issues are. So absolutely predominant is finding and keeping workers. Every, I think, province, every city in the country seems to be challenged with that. And we consider the four circles that are attached to that to be fundamental building blocks to make our region attractive to workers. As I said earlier, affordable housing, immigration, just getting more workers in the door in the province, in the city. Childcare is a fundamental to making life more affordable for working parents. And transportation, better public transit options. Safe communities is the second thing we hear the most about, and that's about people on the streets, having enough resources for policing. Our members tell us that we have laws and we would like to see them enforced, and healthcare is an aspect of safe community treatment for addictions and mental illness. And then we continually act or advocate for business innovation to help with climate change solutions, better regional services, and fair rules for business, which often means if you have disruptors like we're hearing a lot about Uber and Lyft coming in, what does that mean for established transportation services? We want fair rules for we want disruption, we want change, we want new services, but we want it to be fair for the existing businesses. That's it. So, any
Thank you, Ms. Holt. Yeah, we'll go for questions, and really we'll just receive the presentation at this time, and I'll come back to this table as we have a motion for consideration of joining it in future. Councillor Braithwaite.
Thanks very much for your presentation, Ms. Holt. A question, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it because nobody else will know the answer. I did have a conversation with Mr. McNeil in regards to the cost that it would be, and I think I inadvertently gave the incorrect costs when I brought this to council before. Yeah. So can you perhaps let us know, or can Mr. McNeil let us know what the actual cost is?
Yeah,
because I think we based it on
number of employees.
Right, on full-time employees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last information I had is you have somewhere between 100, 150.
Right.
Ish.
So, yeah. So in actual fact, because I had quoted it more, because I had added in all of our auxiliary employees.
Yeah, so that's over
I had quoted it
300,
more at
which really
three.
blew my mind. I thought, whoa.
Yeah. So in actual fact, what the cost is basically cut in half of what
Yeah.
I said, because I was basing it on.
I think it's
yeah.
1750.
It's about 1750, yeah. Except the first year there's an extra charge. So I had
Just
originally
an
quoted
admin.
it at 35 or something
Yeah.
like that, and that was incorrect. So
Yeah.
just wanted to clear that up.
Thank you.
And then the only other question I would have is, I know that, and through you, Chair, would be around the credit card charges, and I'm not sure if we were able to get that information or not. I know that it was my fault that I didn't get that to Mr. Payne in time. I don't think so. If there's any update on that.
Yeah, I think we did, or in the process of, or have connected with the two service providers we have that can quote their rates. Yeah, it's based on the volume that you have. And that's what this document is for, is if you want to have an overview of all of our different benefits and services. They start at the back here. These 2 pages are a good, kind of dense, but we're trying to get all of it there. A summary of all the things that we offer when it comes to services and benefits.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Green?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you very much, Ms. Holt, for the presentation. 2 questions. One, I'm the council liaison to the Business Improvement Association locally.
Yes.
So I just wondered what the Chamber's relationship, if any, is with BIAs across the region. And secondly, do you have council liaisons to the Chamber for those municipalities that are represented? Thank you.
Yeah, well, the first thing is the one that the BIA we've been focused on almost exclusively, I'd say, is the Downtown Victoria Business Association, Jeff Bray. So he sits on our policy committee, and we attend this monthly meeting with Mayor Helps, and we've continuously work on issues. So, they're funded by a tax levy, and they have a kind of mandatory membership, and very focused on right in the downtown area. And I'm sure yours operates in a similar way. So they would be a natural connection for us to. And if we can do things together, they're our natural ally, shall we say. And sorry, what was the second question about? Oh, council.
For
we
those
haven't
municipalities
done that. Council liaison, because we try to encourage as many councillors and certainly the mayors to attend as much as they possibly can, and nobody's actually suggested that to us at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Any other questions of Ms. Holt at this time before I let her go? Let's see.
Okay,
No?
well,
We're
we'd
good?
be very, very happy to have Oak Bay join us.
Thank you. Can I ask? I have one question
Yeah.
for you since you're here. It sounds like Langford is joining.
Joined, yeah.
Has joined. Can you, in a very short answer, if you can, just what was the driver for Langford joining as a municipality?
I would say that the mayor has been very, I don't think anything that I heard this morning was a surprise to me. I'd say his motivation is that he has been trying to get the attention of business in the region for the whole time he's been mayor. And successfully, he's brought in many businesses compared to where they were at a couple of decades ago. But he is a big thinker, and he's always talking about transportation issues, housing. That was the main thing we talked about today. And the fact that he's trying to get more jobs in Langford in the West Shore, so his residents don't have to commute. But his primary goal is to have housing and have affordable housing for young families. So he recognizes that he doesn't have enough jobs in Langford, so he does have a natural and necessary relationship between those families living in Langford and where they work, which is downtown. So I think he sees it just as a way to be able to be in the room, talk to and connect with businesses that aren't just Langford businesses.
All right, no, fair enough. Thank you very much. Councillor Ning.
Thank you very much, Ms. Holt, for coming here. I really and truly thank you very much for all the very good work you do in our greater community.
Thank you.
It's very much noticed and appreciated. So just a couple questions. It's nice to hear that it's not quite as costly as I
Yeah.
originally thought. That's always nice.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of, two things is, all the benefits for our employees, like what typically happens? Do employees actually use all these benefits? Do you know about that?
It depends on the size of the organization and what you offer yourselves.
Yeah.
I have to say that most public sector organizations have pretty good benefits for their employees. So most of certainly the Chamber Group Insurance is extremely popular with small and medium-sized businesses because it's a great health package, and now it's got this teledoc feature, and it's hard for them to get steady rates, but the group insurance is a national program, so the group is all chambers across the country and their members, so it's a very attractive package. So,
And just another question, maybe kind of an obvious question, but in addition to the fee that we would pay if we're council to support this membership, how do you see, like specifically, how Oak Bay would, what is the contribution of Oak Bay being a member that's going to contribute to the bigger picture?
well, I think it's a two-way street. It's certainly there's no point if we're going to be a region in just doing business with Victoria when it comes to our perspective. So that's why we were very happy to get Saanich and Langford, and we're almost there with Colwood, and we're hoping we're there with Oak Bay. And it's to try to have an opportunity for businesses to understand more about those communities and those communities to understand more about business. And I don't mean, there's presentations to that effect. Like I say, the business leaders lunches, we get a lot of mayors and councillors coming out to those. But it's the opportunity to meet each other personally, and understand each other's business and what your priorities are. And, when it comes to Saanich and Langford, they're very interested in, Saanich said that one of the mayor there drove the membership in the chamber, and he said it was because he really wanted Saanich to get an identity as a business location and a business-friendly community. And there's lots of businesses in Saanich, but people think of downtown, and maybe they think of Langford because it's got a lot of profile, but he was saying that it's not an identity that Saanich has, so he wanted to be seen as trying to build that. And I think that's the same with Colwood. I think they suffer from being in the shadow of Langford somewhat, and they've got a lot going on, especially housing. And the mayor there is the one who's driving it for us to try to get them connected, and he wants to have more exposure and opportunity to talk to businesses about what's going on in Colwood.
Okay, thank you. It's kind of obvious, but I appreciate
Yeah.
the clear articulation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Holt.
Okay.
Ms. Hopkins, we don't really need a motion to receive at this point, do we? We have a presentation in our package. Best practice to receive it.
Your worship, there's no need to receive the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Holt.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, thanks for coming out. Up next on the agenda is just Mayor's Remarks. I don't have much to say tonight, mostly in the interest of time, but just want to remind people watching and here the online budget survey is ending on February 13th. So if people who want to submit to that, this is the time to do it. And also the Oak Bay Police Board has the municipal appointment coming up due. So that is open, available for applications, and the applications close on February 28th. Thank you. So I just wanted to make those two reminders. And with that, we're going to move over to the public participation period. And if there's anybody from the members of the public who wish to come forward and address council on any items or issues of interest, you're welcome to do so. Everybody's shaking their heads. Look at that. I can see all three shaking their heads. It's perfect. It makes things very smooth. Then we'll move on to item number 5, having already done number 4, which is grant opportunities through Community Emergency Preparedness Fund. I think we have Chief Hughes here to speak to it. So if I think the recommendations are fairly straightforward. So if there's something you want to highlight, do so, and otherwise we'll take questions.
Thank you, Your Worship. There's 3 $25,000 grant opportunities, that's the maximum. We intend on applying for the maximum for both the emergency support services, emergency operations center, and training stream, as well as evacuation route planning.
Thank you. Other questions of Chief Hughes? Yes, Councillor Zilka and then Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I just want to confirm all three of these are through UBCM?
That's correct, through
Thank
UBCM.
Councillor Patterson?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for the report. Certainly, I do support what has been proposed, but I have a question about the programs in the province. What did I just? The province actually, there's discussion at the province of requiring the post-disaster needs assessment and post-disaster recovery plans, completion of those as a condition of receiving provincial recovery funds. And so some of the proposed discussion has been about that taking those having to be completed by 2021. I know that even though, you know, best attempts will be made, I'm sure, by yourself participating. But if we go through this, what do we estimate would be a time to complete these plans? If we're successful getting the grants and we go about this, what do we estimate would be the completion date?
Through you, through you, Chair. Completion date is generally 1 year from grant acceptance. So depending on the grant, could be from March of this year, April from this year, etc.
And one more question, if I can continue. I also noticed in these programs that the startup costs for IT and much of the equipment that would be needed to get these programs up and running is covered in the grants, but after that there are ongoing operational, or could be ongoing operational costs. So I'm just wondering if that budget would be developed with the planning for the program.
Yes, operational costs that would be, through your chair, be required through the program. We would be looking at building that into the budget. They're not significant costs. Most of it is startup. For instance, the province going to an electronic reporting and data entry model as opposed to paper and pen, and we'd be looking to take advantage of any subsequent grant streams as well in the future.
Any other questions of Chief Hughes at this time? If not, we can move all three simultaneously. We don't have to do them separately if people are so willing. Councillor Green? Oh.
I'll make the motion to move all three recommendations.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unopposed? Thank you, Chief. We have a DVP that was before council or before committee of the whole. Has gone out for neighbor notification. There's no communication here in our agenda package. Is there any late communications that's arrived to staff? No. Anybody from the public who wish to address council on, this is 2780 Beach Drive? I guess probably should have staff give a quick overview of what this is before we move on any further. So if those people following at home understand. Ms. Jensen, welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, just as a reminder, Council considered this at the January Committee of the Whole meeting. This application is running concurrently with an upland siting and design application where the owners are proposing to undertake some exterior alterations to the existing home, enclosing two small corners on both north sides of the building, as well as building a new deck in the rear yard. So it's because of the enclosing of the northeast corner of the building that is the requirement for the development variance permit. Well, it will match up with the lower level, but it is requiring that variance of 1.72 meters to take it to 5.9 meters to the exterior side lot line.
Thank you, Ms. Jensen. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll just have the recommendation here. I need a motion of some sort, and we can talk to the motion.
I'll move that the Director of Building and Planning be authorized to issue development variance permit DVP 00096 with respect to 2780 Beach Drive as appended to the Council agenda of February 10th, 2020.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much. And that concludes the variance process for that property. So all approved at this point. Item number 7 on the agenda, we have a grant opportunity investing in Canada infrastructure program or sewage, conjoined sewage separation. Always hot in our topics. Mr. Haran, I believe this would be your topic.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm pleased to provide the report seeking authorization for staff to submit an application to complete the Upland Sewer Separation Project through the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, Green Infrastructure, Environmental Quality Substream. That's a mouthful to try to say that whole program. The project's to eliminate combined sewer overflows at Cadbro Bay, Oak Bay, and McNeil Bay, with 3 phases to complete in the project: Humber Catchment Construction, Rutland Catchment Detailed Design, and Rutland Catchment Construction, for a total of $22.97 million. These cost estimates are updated as of, those are 2020 dollars, that figure that I provided, because I have up-to-date cost estimates that were done with our consulting engineers, the design firm McElhaney Consulting Services Limited, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of Mr. Haran? Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to staff, and thank you for the report. And this is exciting. This is, well, nothing is assured yet, of course, but excited to see this moving forward. Just in terms of in the analysis section of the report, it talks about that the grant application this time was broken down into components such that. That the grant covering the whole project could be awarded, but smaller grant awards would be possible because of the built-in flexibility. So, do I take that to mean that they would award specifically on sort of the project phases that we're laying out here, as in they would award a grant to cover one phase but not the others, or would they award a lesser than what is being requested amount, and we would have to figure out what to do subsequently?
Through the chair, the hope is that the program would award a grant to cover the whole project, all 3 phases, and the flexibility that we've created would be that if the granting authority wanted to provide something lesser than the full project, they could do something, but they're likely to do so. They would only do so for some discrete outcome. So that would mean either they would fund phase 1 and phase 2, or just phase 1, and all those outcomes would be positive for the district.
Just to follow up very quickly, and again through you to staff, thank you for that. And so I think I know the answer to this, but I'll just for confirmation, if for whatever reason the grantor decided to fund one aspect of it, one phase, for instance, or multiple phases, but not the full project, then this cost breakdown or potentially the estimate would return to council for sort of revision and sort of update of those numbers.
Mr. Haran?
The 5-year plan, the draft 5-year financial plan that's in front of you, is making the assumption that so this grant application, if it's approved, that the full project would go forward. If some lesser grant was to be awarded, such as funding the Humber Catchment Construction, well, then I would bring it back to council to say this is what the grant award was, and this is what it means in terms of project execution, and I would brief the next steps in terms of what it means for the whole project versus the parts that were grant funded.
Thank you. But for clarification, there's no further approvals required at that point. Just we'd be updating us on the changes based on that.
Yes, Your Worship. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Patterson?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to staff, thank you very much for this report. I think this would be wonderful if it's successful, even in part, it would still be good. But my question follows up a bit on Councillor Appleton's questions. The Upland Sewer Separation Project has implications on long-term capital funding, reserve funds, and the annual operating expenses that go along with the system. So, and perhaps it's a bit premature since we don't know exactly where we're going to end up here, but will we be also getting some review of the component that will be the additional annual operating expenses for this Upland Sewer Separation Project, perhaps in the rest of the budget presentations?
Mr. Haran?
Through the chair, we haven't incorporated the expected operating costs in any any of the financial plans at this point for this particular new asset, but it's an excellent question and it is part of our rationale. So in the pre-design study that was done back in 2015, 2016, and at the time, the package that council reviewed prior to making the decision, the operating costs, expected increase in operating costs were included. And then as part of our grant applications, when we do cost estimates, it's a standard practice now to include asset management principles in the application process. So we are required to answer questions about how these assets would be managed for their full life cycle, including the annual operating costs. So it's a standard practice in doing our business, but an excellent question because it's not always done. It hasn't always been done like that in the past.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Patterson, for asking the question. Councillor Zelka, you had a question?
I do. Thank you so much, Chair. And through you to staff, an excellent report. And it's really great to see that we have such wonderful projects that are shelf ready, and that the design, detailed design for the Humber catchment is complete and essentially ready to go to the next step. Assuming best case, where this money gets approved, I presume you would go straight to construction, or probably some aspect of advertising or engagement of some sort to let folks know what the next step would be. I presume you would not come back to council if this money were approved. Hence my question: what would the next step be? When would ground be broken, for example, and what would be the process to let the neighbors know what was going on? Thanks.
Mr. Horan?
Through your worship, there would definitely be a good amount of work that would have to happen initially in terms of briefing the community and the council about what it all means with the project, what can be expected, and how we would execute this project. For example, this is a significant capital project over a number of years, so it's not something that we would just do in-house with staff that we currently have. We'd have to stand up a project management office for a short period of time that would help us manage the various tenders and requests for proposals that would need to be done for the construction phases, for the engagement and the ongoing challenging work that this would entail. So before any of that would occur, probably very soon after fingers crossed grant award would happen, I would bring back a report to this body to talk about what it all means and what the future looks like based on that information.
Thank you. Councillor Braithwaite?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Thank you. I agree with Councillor Zelka that it's wonderful to have something like this shelf ready to go. So kudos to you guys for having put in all of the work prior to this. Before we make the recommendation that you have listed in the agenda, I just might point out that there's a 0 missing. In the second part of where it says, and that council support the project commits 612700. I think there should be another 0 there. So just so that we're clear. I know it's correct in the report, but on the agenda, I just noticed that there's a 0 missing. Yeah. So if we're ready, I could make the recommendation if you like, unless you...
Go ahead and make the motion. We can still talk to it.
Okay. I'll move the recommendation as per or I'll move the staff recommendation.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion, comments, questions? I have just one question through me to Mr. Horan. Just out of curiosity, in these grant applications, there's essentially a percentage of the projects are paid for by the other funding agencies. So what happens with overages? So if, say at what point in this project there was a determination that the cost would increase, or frankly, if the costs were less than projected, what is the mechanism used to deal with that situation?
That's an excellent question, Your Worship. In fact, that is one of the questions that's in the grant application, so there needs to be a plan around that. So the cost estimates that we've provided for this project and that we're using for the grant application incorporate standard contingencies in terms of what the unknowns are, and if during the construction process, there's issues that cause those costs to be higher than expected, even with those contingencies, then they would be upon the district to handle those increases. So the way we would mitigate that is through very robust cost controls, project management, frameworks in place and ways to and I can go into those in more detail at a later time, but there's a lot of ways to manage those projects to make sure that as things occur that we can make decisions, so the council can from a governance lens as well oversee those projects to ensure cost controls and so on.
Okay, thank you. I'm very appreciative of the fact you've got these numbers updated to 2020 numbers to help with that process. Councillor Appleton?
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. And through you to staff, just with regards to the overages situation, one, as I understand it, a potential area of unknown with regards to the excavation in this area is specifically around the archaeological aspect and what implications that might have. And I'm just wondering at this stage of the game of the development of the work around the costing, to what extent has that been taken into account, and sort of at what level have we developed a sort of a mitigation and a sort of strategy to approach that topic? I seem to remember that the design was sort of developed in such a way that it would minimize sort of excess disturbance outside of the footprint of the existing infrastructure, which would help. But that information may not be available right now, but if staff had a comment on that.
Mr. Haran?
I can comment that archaeological risk is definitely must be factored into the cost estimates, and they were early in the pre-design study. It was more vague, broader plus or minuses in terms of percentages, but in the detailed design that was done for the Humber catchment, and then those figures extrapolated to the predicted cost of Rutland incorporates the higher risk of archaeological in that area.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other comments or questions, so I will call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? Unopposed. Thank you very much for the work done to get it to this point, Mr. Haran. After Transportation Infrastructure Grant, and I see we have representatives from UVic here as well, but Mr. Haran, I believe this will probably fall to you.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'm just very pleased to be seeking authority to partner with University of Victoria to submit a grant to the BC Active Transportation Grant Program, formerly known as the Bike BC program. University of Victoria has a detailed design and a shelf-ready project to complete a two-way separate bike lane facility between Ring Road and University Drive and this center of campus. They're an excellent candidate for this grant program because of the shelf-ready project and the fact that that their proposal fits into Oak Bay's and the region's active transportation strategies and network plans. From the Oak Bay perspective, we have a number of projects that are in the feasibility study stage, but none mature enough to be likely grant candidates. So we were just very happy to partner up with UVic on this one. I have a contingent of UVic folks over there, so if there's questions for me or for UVic staff, I'm sure we'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Haran, and certainly do appreciate the efforts to partner like this, Councillor Braithwaite.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I agree that as we have no shelf-ready active transportation projects ready at this time, that's a really good way for us to show support through UVic's campus cycling plan. My one question would be, would this stop us or work against us in the future when we're looking to fund things specific to Oak Bay for active transportation?
Mr. Haran, much you can read the minds of the funders.
So based on the last couple of years, the Bike BC and now the new name Active Transportation Grant come out every year and a half as the new intake. So back in 2017, there was an intake which we missed because we weren't ready. And then the next intake, we were ready for Cadbro Bay bike lanes, and of course got the almost half of that project, $75,000 of that project covered. So we're really just fingers crossed. The dates on this one say 2020, 2021. So I think that by the time we can support this project, and by the time the next intake is ready, we'll be shelf ready as well for a number of projects on our end.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Patterson?
Thank you. Again, thank you for bringing this forward. It's a great opportunity for Oak Bay to be involved without having to put capital into it. But I am wondering if there is any plans for public engagement as this project goes forward.
That would be a question I have to put to representatives of the university. It's entirely on their property.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. My name is Mike Wilson. I'm the Director of Campus Planning and Sustainability with UVic. We've actually done quite a robust amount of public consultation as part of the project. So through the campus cycling plan process, we developed 7 pathways, and I think we talked to about 2,000 people in the community, both on campus and off. So there was a huge amount of support for implementing an active transportation network on campus.
Thank you. Any other questions? See, it was a good thing you came here today. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. I don't have a motion on the table yet, so if someone wishes to make a motion, we can consider it. Councillor Green.
I'll make the motion, option 1, which is that staff be authorized to submit on behalf of the District of Oak Bay and in partnership with the University of Victoria an application for the BC Active Transportation Grant Program to complete a 2-way bicycle pathway between University Drive, Ring Road, and the center of campus, and that no district funds will be allocated for this project in recognition of the University of Victoria's plan to fully manage the project and fund the municipal portion of any cost-sharing agreement under the BC Active Transportation Grant Program.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I just had one question. I'm assuming that this was being done in this model because it has to be municipality that applies for this particular grant. Is that correct? Universities can't apply directly?
Correct, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments, questions? Yeah, Councillor Appleton.
I will make a quick comment and editorialize slightly here just to underline what's been pointed out by the Director of Engineering and the notation that's made in the report about not currently having capital budget commitments resulting from council direction related to the planning and implementation of new active transportation infrastructure, which is completely factual. And as we enter into the budgeting process, noting that active transportation is included as a proposed budget item, I'm looking forward to that being included, and so when this comes up again, that we have a project ready for approval.
Thank you, Councillor Appleton. Seeing no other comments, questions, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Not opposed. Thank you very much. We have now a set of meetings. Thank you for coming out tonight. I know it was only one question, but it could have been important, so thank you for being here. Item number 9, Advisory Design Panel Minutes of January 7th. Need a motion to receive.
Move receipt.
Moved, and is there a seconder?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Not opposed. Number 10, Community Climate Action Working Group Minutes of January 7th.
Move receipt.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Not opposed. And last but not least, the Climate Action Working Group Minutes of January 18th.
Move receipt.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Councillor Appleton.
I just wanted to bring to council's attention in the minutes for the Climate Action Working Group of January 17th, you'll notice in section 3 on page 3, after we received a pair of presentations at the workshop, and you'll see that there is a motion made there that Councillor Appleton and myself bring the presentations forward to council for information purposes. And in discussion with the Director of Corporate Services, that there's some mechanism issues about bringing that forward. So what I actually will do in response to that is I'm going to actually request that the two presenters actually do present to council at a future date, because I believe especially, well, both of them were equally good, but presentation by Dr. Hannah Teicher actually included some analysis, research, and recommendations for the district within that, and rather than bring that forward myself on behalf of somebody who has not delegated to council, I would like to actually have that brought forward to council. So will be coming forward hopefully in the near future.
Thank you, Councillor Appleton. And I do note this date is a very long day of work, so just pass on our appreciation to the working group for the and to the staff support, Ms. Jensen, in particular for the very long hours put in on this to try and bring something back to council in a reasonably timely fashion. So thank you so much for that. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor of receipt? Opposed, not opposed. Thank you. Item number 11 on the agenda, number 12 on the agenda, we have whistleblower policy. Is this Ms. Varela? You want to speak to this? Ms. Hopkins. Ms. Hopkins, welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is a new whistleblower policy for the district that was recommended through our auditing process last year to enhance our internal controls and also recommended to us through best practices for items like WorkSafe BC. And so it is before you now for consideration of adoption.
Thank you. Councillor Green?
I'm prepared to make a motion. I think it's pretty straightforward, and also it is best
Why don't
practice.
you, make the motion and we'll get a seconder, then we can I'll take your comments as motivator.
I recommend that we approve the whistleblower policy 2020.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Councillor Green, you have the floor if you wish to make any additional comments.
Oh no, just briefly that it is a very good practice, and I think it's important for transparency and all the other things that we talk about in the workplace and for the municipality. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Zelka, Appleton, and then was it Patterson have your hand up? Oh, nay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Much appreciated. And very briefly, Section 8, exceptions, elected officials. I know that as an elected official, we already have quite onerous restrictions and requirements on our reporting and our behavior. I just was wondering, with respect to elected officials, what would be the process that staff would follow should this whistleblower be called upon on one of us?
Ms. Varela.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the reporting process would be through myself, and then I would take appropriate action depending on the nature of the complaint.
Thank you. That does go to the province, I believe, does it not, ultimately for elected officials for escalation?
I'm actually not sure off the top of my head, but it would come through me. I may have to get legal advice depending on the nature. So again, situation by situation.
Thank you very much. I have Councillor Appleton and Councillor Ney.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. Through you to staff, I'm going to very briefly, I'm going to assume that the bulk of the policy and the language that's contained herein is sort of based on basic standard practice, that it's based on sort of some template materials that are guided by senior government legislation or something to that nature. And that's not a knock. It's not as far as like copying and pasting, but I'm just kind of wondering whether it just sort of fits in with a sort of template standard that's out there.
Ms. Varela?
So this was brought forward based on consideration of WorkSafe BC and best practices. So a template per se, but again, quite a recent policy, and we didn't have one before, so we do consider this a stride forward for the district.
That's it. Good. And then Councillor Ney. And then Patterson.
I'm going to withdraw. I just found the question I was looking for.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councillor Ney. Brevity is appreciated. Councillor Patterson.
Yes, thank you. I do support the whistleblower policy, but my question is, at an earlier meeting, I asked if the district had a fraud policy, and in fact, it was confirmed that we don't have a fraud policy. So I'm wondering if it's not incumbent upon the district to have a fraud policy to establish what's considered wrongdoing and as a basis for the whistleblower complaint. The fraud policy would generally be the tool that would be used for educating and preventing fraud, as opposed to having the whistleblower after the fact.
I'll turn to staff, and Ms. Varela, and you can direct it to any other staff you see fit.
I don't have firsthand experience with a fraud policy per se for local government. There could be discussion around internal controls and those kinds of measures. But again, piece by piece as we start to tighten up on these.
Thank you. I do appreciate the language that was added into the procurement policy, which laid out much more of the specifics in terms of expectations as well. Councillor Ney.
I was just wondering, by the way, I really like this policy a lot. I find it very thorough and covers the bases, and it really addresses a lot of different scenarios. One that comes to my mind, though, is if staff could, through you, Chair, could just speak to, I'm looking at point 2.5, 2.5. And I'm curious, obviously the onus becomes on staff to report any kind of misconduct or dishonest conduct that they may be aware of. And I'm wondering, so what would be the consequence of an employee who becomes aware of some misconduct, but for whatever reason, because there could be several reasons why they don't, but they do not report the information as per the policy? Is there a consequence to that, or how is that dealt with?
It would likely be a case-by-case scenario. Yeah, that's probably my best answer. These can be really complex, and so it would depend how the investigation rolled out and what was revealed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? I'll just share my appreciation for getting this put together and bringing it forward. I found the title, the Reporting for Investigation and Protection, or Whistleblower RIP, looks kind of bad in the acronym state, but we will leave that alone. Any other comments or questions on the whistleblower policy? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, and none opposed. We have new business and verbal reports. Is there any new business from council at this time? Seeing any report in the Capital Regional District, we are actually meeting on Wednesday. Probably of interest to this body, I've certainly had a number of emails on it, is there was a request from the District of Saanich for assistance under the Land Acquisition Fund, which is generally designed for wildlife spaces and generally on the outskirts of town, to be used for contributing to the purchase of the Kings Park property nearby Oak Bay. And so that will be up for consideration coming forward amongst a number of other items, but that's probably the most relevant to Oak Bay at this time. And at this point, I'll just go around the table, starting probably with Councillor Ney, and just if there's any other verbal reports from any other committees or commissions that you sit on that you think would be of interest to this body or to the public.
No.
Councillor Patterson?
The only thing I have, Mayor, that might be of interest is the Heritage Foundation did complete a new Oak Bay Walking Trails brochure, which is a lovely brochure. They approached the Department of Tourism about it. The Department of Tourism was very excited about it also. However, the number of copies we had printed fell far short of what their expectations were. So I think we're going to have to revisit our funding.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. And I would just note Joan Hegel, who passed away recently, was very involved in getting this resurrected from its original. It was made for the 2006 centennial. Councillor Zelka.
Thank you, Chair. No new business, but I have been receiving a number of thanks for staff actions, whether snow clearing, all sorts of other things that have happened in the last month or two. And it's nice that I can take credit for all this wonderful work being done by, we can take credit for the wonderful work being done by staff. So I pass through you to staff. A wonderful thanks for all the incredible work you've done in the last little while. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zelka. So, yeah, Mr. Horan, if you could pass it on to the Public Works teams, but also Chief Hughes as well, the fire and the response to the flooding and the police responses as well, very much appreciated. Councillor Appleton.
Very briefly, Chair, just attended the Greater Victoria Public Library Board meeting on February the 28th, inaugural meeting for 2020, and of course the Mayor was our guest. Not too much to report. This is the inaugural meeting. Deborah Bagore continues as chair, and I understand that the library board will be coming to present their annual briefing on February the 20th, I believe. Staff can correct me if I'm wrong.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just to let you know that I did attend a SIP meeting last week. I think it was last week. That was the Future of Leadership presentation by author Don Pontefract, and he spoke about collaborative leadership, which was really interesting. And also a reminder that the One Planet Cities project that you would have all received an invitation in your email is coming up on February 20th, if you would like to register for that. And just a thank you to staff for starting to arrange the the interviews or the meetings for the Mayor Standing Committee for Parks, Rec and Culture. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green.
Well, first of all, I echo your words. A big thank you to the fire chief during the flooding, and I was acting mayor at the time, and I will go no further. It was an interesting experience, but I really appreciate what support the chief offered, and also the public works departments. Secondly, I attended the GVLRA last week, and I nominated you as the chair again for another year. And I know you forced me. Yeah, he threatened me, so I had to do it. And then Heather Garcher also was nominated as the vice chair of GVLRA. She's from North Saanich. I also am happy to announce that Will King is the new chair of the Advisory Design Panel. And Will and I actually attended on Friday afternoon a Respectful Workplace workshop that was facilitated by our CAO, Lou Varela, and attended by a number of staff. Thank you very much. It was excellent information. And Will was very engaged, I think, in the process, which was really good to see. And other council members attended also, Councillors Patterson and Appleton. And the chair of the Heritage Commission attended. And it was really good. Thank you very much to staff for a great effort.
Thank you, Councillor Green. I echo that appreciation. This is an effort for those watching made to up our game related to committees and commissions, trying to make sure that the best practices for transparency, for recording of information, for sharing of information being public, and maintaining the respectful workplace, all those items are being carried through right from council through all of their committees and commissions that report through us. So do appreciate, extend appreciation for that work that's ongoing. That ends that session. We have item number 50 now, which is the Animal Control Bylaw Amendment. We've had first and second and third reading on this. We're just looking for a motion to adopt. Councillor Green?
I move to adopt the bylaw on animal control. Thank you.
4748, okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Not opposed? Will you move the second one as well? 4749.
I will move the Uplands Regulations Bylaw Amendment, bylaw number 4749.
Moved and seconded for adoption. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Not opposed? Thank you. Excellent. So seeing eye dogs and assistance dogs are all now properly taken care of in our organization. Now we're going to just adjourn to a special committee of the whole. We need a few minutes to switch over to the stream. So if I get a motion to adjourn, I will re-adjourn here in 10 minutes. So at 8:15. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in Councillor Appleton? Oh, you just preemptively. All those in favor? Opposed? Not opposed? Thank you. And we will re-adjourn here at exactly 8:15.